Okay, everyone, for the last video of this week, I want to talk about file sharing, very specifically about sharing folders from your computer to other people. So when you do this, we need to configure a specific folder to share. There are a number of ways to do this. The first way, which we've actually already seen, if I go into Control Panel and then Network and Network Sharing Center, and then Advanced Settings, the first way is let me move down here. All networks is to turn on public folder sharing. This was again covered when we were talking about profiles and the public profile. So turning this on allows you to share anything in the public folders. In other words, the public profiles folders. This is not always recommended. You may not have a public profile that you're using. You may have a folder on your user profile that you want to be able to share with people. So this isn't going to help you there. So to do that, we need to actually get to a folder on your profile. So let's go into the File Explorer and pick a folder. Here we've got a folder that we created at some point. So if I want to share this folder, there are two ways I can do this. Just this folder here. If I right-click and select Properties from this folder, I can also share with, but that's a shortcut that I don't want to use quite yet. If I click Properties, I now have the ability to go to the Sharing tab. Okay, Sharing tab has two ways to share: network, file, and folder sharing. I can just click Share. So if I do that, I can say, who do I want to share this folder with? I can type in a name, and then they are now able to share it. But if I want more control or more specific types of sharing, I want to change the permissions, change how I share these folders. Because if I just share here, they just get access to my folder and everything in it. Well, sometimes I don't want that. Sometimes I want them to only have read access instead of read and write access. Remember permissions from the NTFS section. So if I go to Advanced Sharing, I have the ability to share the folder. I can name the share. So maybe folder 2 isn't a good name. Maybe finance is a good name. So now the finance share. And I can specify how many people can access this. Maybe I don't want 20 people accessing my computer on time. Maybe I only want 5 people at a time. So I can say how many people. I can also set permissions. I can set who has access. Right now, everyone has read access. Maybe I want to give Phil, because I trust Phil. I don't trust Bob, but I trust Phil. Maybe I want to give Phil I want to give him change permissions. I want him to be able to make changes to these shared documents that we're going to have. Okay? So inside my advanced sharing, I can make changes to how we share. It's not just this blanket one-size-fits-all sharing. So by doing this, I click OK, all right, and then OK again. And OK, we'll close one more time. Now, folder 2 is shared. Now, if I were to go on a different computer, if I were to use my credentials or Phil's credentials, I would be able to access this folder because we have it shared. And again, let me just go back in to show you. Sharing network path right there. This is how we would access the folder. Notice, this is our computer name. Do you remember last lecture, I was pointing out when we did the hostname command, it showed this. This is the name of our computer, of this computer right here. So on the network, if I want to access the network, 2 backslashes indicate this network, the local network, and then this is the computer name on this network, and then this backslash, then the name of the share that I want to access. Because folder 2, remember, I called folder 2 finance in my advanced sharing. So that is how I would access this shared folder on the network. So say, for example, I have Bob on some other machine and he needs to get to the finance, or maybe even better, I'm working on Bob's machine. I don't trust Bob, remember? So I want to get to the finance folder from Bob's machine. Let me pull in Bob's machine. I've got another virtual machine here. And if I click on it, it's Bob's machine. So let me log in to Bob's machine as Bob, because I'm the all-powerful IT guy. I know all of his passwords. So now notice this, let me move out of the way. This is my machine. I have this folder shared on the network. Only people that can access this machine, let me go to advanced sharing. Only people that access this at this point, while everyone can have read access, Phil, if I logged in as Phil, would have change access. Let me just add myself. I am already the owner, so I should have full access, but just to be specific, myself, my user X, I have full control. So I can create and I can remove stuff from this folder. Okay? Okay and okay. Now, if I want to connect, this is the path that I want. So let me bring in Bob's machine here. If I, down here in the search bar, if I start typing in an address, it's going to look out. It's actually going to find all of the addresses out on my network. Notice I have two addresses. This one, RIMPD, matches this. So this is, this machine is this machine right here. The other address that you're seeing is Bob's machine. That is Bob's network because they're both discoverable here. So if I click on this, it's going to say, whoa, you need to enter your credentials because I'm Bob right now. And this machine, my other machine, wants to know who's trying to log in because depending on who's logging in, they're going to have different permissions for this folder. So let's do user X with my super secret password and OK. If I wanted to remember, which I don't want Bob to have access to this, I would click there. So I hit OK. It thinks about it and says, OK, here it is. This is the stuff that's shared that's available to you. So here's that finance share that I was talking about. I now have access to that folder. So anything in this folder I have access to. Let's look inside. So there's a new text document in there. So if I open up this finance, my shared drive, I should see the new text document. It's the same file. You can see even the date modified is the same. Oh, now because I have full control, I can make changes to this text document because I am me. I am me. All right, and I can save it. So I've now made changes. If I come back here into this machine, my original machine, notice the modify date is now right now. I open this up and hey, look, the changes are saved because it's the same folder. This folder too is shared as finance, and over on Bob's machine, I access the finance share, which is that folder. And that's all a share is. It's just a folder on someone's machine that they set up to share with other people. And so it looks like a full share. Okay. Now, the other thing you'll notice is there's a user's share. This is because we turn public folders on. So if I click on my user share, I am logged in as user X. So I see my folder. There's other folders. Bob has a folder, Phil has a folder, but I don't see those. I just see my folder and the public folder. We all have access to the public folder because we turned that on in the settings, in the advanced network and sharing center settings. So I can actually open up the public folders and get at any of the public documents. Okay, so that's an example of sharing folders using file sharing in Windows 10. Let me get Bob's machine out of the way here. And there we go. We can close this out. Now, one last thing I want to mention is I've talked about this before about the name of my computer. My name of this computer is something funky. It's desktop and RIMD and all that. Well, that's not very memorable. If I want to change my name of my computer so that when other machines are trying to connect to the settings of my computer, the shared stuff on my computer, I'm going to try that again. So one last thing I want to talk about is the ability to change the name of your computer. Now remember, I had mentioned that I was going to show you how to do that before. And when we go to connect to this machine, Bob has this desktop, RIMD, whatever. It's not a very memorable name. Usually we want to make these understandable so we can very quickly access the machines that we want to access. So to do that, we want to change the machine names to be whatever we want them to be. So to change the machine name, it's very simple. If we go to settings, go to start menu, go to settings. Under the system settings, then all the way down to about, you'll see here's the name of the current name of the machine. It is desktop 73RIMPD. Not very memorable. Let's rename this PC. I click on rename. I can now change it to whatever I want. So let's call it user X PC. So now when someone wants to access my computer, they're going to know this is my computer here. So click next. It's going to make some changes. Now, when this is finished, I'm going to have to restart my machine because there's a lot of information that requires that it reboots with my new name, because there's services that expect my name and things like that. So let's restart now, and I'll be back in just a second. So you'll notice, before I do this, this is actually good, that someone else is still using this PC. In other words, people are either logged on or people are using the shares on this PC. I never logged out from Bob's machine, so Bob is still trying to use the share on my machine, and I think at least one user is still logged in here, but that's okay. If I restart anyway, they're all going to be logged out and it's going to reboot. Okay, and we are back from the reboot. If I now go back to settings and system and about, we will see that my PC name is now userx.-pc. So we can change the names of all of our machines to give them a more useful name rather than what the default name that Windows 10 gives it when you first just create it. It picks some random letters and numbers and goes with that. So we get to decide that by renaming the PC here. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about for networking for this week. That was a lot, actually. 4 videos is more than I usually do, but there's a lot of stuff packed in here. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. I personally am a big fan of networking. It's one of my favorite parts of working with computers. So good luck. Get to work on the labs. The midterm has been posted. For those of you who have not seen the announcement or checked on Blackboard in a few days, it is due the end of next week. So we have all of Chapter 7 to go through, and you have a week from that point to get the midterm in. So it's going to be due a week from this coming Saturday at midnight. All right, have a good week. And again, if you have any questions or run into any problems, please email me.